Let's say you're 2 years out from retirement and you're ready to potentially claim Social Security, and your biggest question is, when should you actually claim that Social Security? In this episode today, we're going to talk about claiming your Social Security. How does that work? When should you claim it? Why should you claim it at that age? So, Kyle, do you want to kick us off with this episode?
Absolutely. This is one of the biggest questions, concerns. We call them like a landmine. I had to make this decision on like, hey, when am I going to claim this Social Security? I read online, or a friend said this, or my advisor said just take it and don't touch your investments. So today we're just going to walk you through some strategies, some ideas, some things to think about. When I talk about Social Security claiming, it's more than just, hey, let's just take it at this age. Here's how much it pays you. Here's your break even points. Really, we have to understand some like a full context of like, how does this thing work in correlation with all these other decisions I have to make. Like if you flip one switch, five switches go off. If I don't like that, I got to flip this one switch off, and then five other switches go off. So just really figuring out how Social Security is intertwined into everything. So the biggest thing is understanding like how your Social Security is taxed. What other resources do we have saved up, like IRAs and 401ks and Roth IRAs and pensions? Am I married? Am I single? Are there one Social Security checks? Is there two Social Security checks? Are we married? And there's a age difference. We're in similar age. So that's some things you have to keep in mind. Are you going to keep working after you claim your Social Security? Is one spouse going to be working after one spouse claims? So there's a lot of factors that go into all these when should I take my Social Security? But what kind of goes into a past show is like understanding like Social Security by itself is not taxable. However, how you claim your Social Security with the amount of resources of income you're taking from your IRAs and your 401ks and pensions, like how are you showing income on your tax return, will dictate how much of this Social Security will disappear. So that's what like we're talking about planning is, how do we like make income disappear from your future tax returns? It's coming in, but hey, we got $68,000 of Social Security, but only 33,000 of it's showing up on the tax return as taxable income. So those are a lot of things we have to talk about. So are you going to take money out in the traditional withdrawal strategy where like you're going to have one or two Social Security checks and then everything else you have to like supplement your lifestyle, when it's like 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 a year is all coming from like IRAs and pensions and like tax deferred buckets? More than likely, that can cause more of your Social Security to be like double taxed on the way out. And then kind of like if you have more of a tax efficient strategy where it's like Social Security check, but then you kind of have more IRA withdrawals, Roth income, capital gains, that type of strategy could potentially cause your Social Security to be either like more tax free or less double taxed. So those are some things you have to keep in mind when it says, when should I take my Social Security? Again, it's more than just like I read online, Google said, if I was born in 1963, I should claim it here because my break-even point's here.
So, just a few things to think about as to when it comes to deciding when to take your benefits. Number one would be your cash needs. So, if you need your Social Security check to make ends meet, then obviously you have fewer options than maybe someone else who that Social Security benefit is not necessarily necessary for their current lifestyle needs. So what are your current cash needs? Number two would be, what is your life expectancy? Like Kyle said a little bit ago, those break-even points that you might hear people throw around. But if you think that you might beat the average life expectancy, then waiting for a larger monthly check might be a good idea. But on the other hand, maybe you have some health concerns, some decisions that maybe you have to might not beat the life expectancy, then you might decide to maybe take it a little bit earlier or take it while you can. So life expectancy is something to think about. The next thing to think about is your marital status. So if you're married, are you going to have spousal benefits? Are there two checks coming in from your own? Do you guys both qualify for benefits? If you're divorced, there's some things there, as well as if you're widowed, there are some other things there. Or if you're single, right? How does that play into whether or not when you decide to claim your Social Security?
At the end of the day, you really have to understand what's the impact of potentially filing early, on time at your full retirement age, or delaying, and coming down to the scenario when you're building out this plan, what type of spending lifestyle are you going to have right when you retire or early on in retirement? Because if you're just going to, hey, we got 3 million, but we only need $7,000-8,000 a month, that household can probably afford to delay Social Security and kind of just live on their investment income. But if you're at that $2-3 million mark and you're needing 10 to 12, $13,000 a month, yes, you could probably pull that income from your investment portfolio. But from a behavioral perspective, it's a little bit harder to sleep at night knowing that 100% of your income is coming from your own bucket of money, where it might make sense to split that bill up, even though, so basically what I mean by split the bill is you're going to take Social Security at 65 or 66, knowing, hey, if I were to wait and live a long life, I could get more, but I can sleep at night better knowing that I have 6,000 coming from Social Security and about 6 to 7,000 is coming from our investments. And this is going to allow us to potentially spend more early on. And then to basically offset that, you just have to make sure a portion of your investment portfolio is set aside for more growth focus, because you will need some good growth over the next couple of decades to kind of ramp up some end of life spending to make up that gap of a loss of cumulative Social Security benefits. So run the impact of that. What's your lifestyle spending going to look like? Are you single? Are you married? Do you have Roth conversions? Are you going to do Roth conversions to offset a Social Security check potentially being lost upon death? And hey, are we going to work and claim? Are we going to, I call it double dipping. Are you going to claim your Social Security like before your full retirement age? We got to understand those rules. In 2024, it's basically saying if you make more than $22,320 per year, for every $2 you're over that amount, they're going to take $1 away from your Social Security. And then the main one would be the full retirement age number. So if that year you hit your full retirement age, if you've made more than $59,520, for every $3 you're over that amount, they'll take away $1 of your Social Security. And then after your full retirement month, there's no earnings limits. So that's just kind of the idea of like, hey, how are they going to potentially fix Social Security? Like, where's everything sitting at? That trustee report usually comes out every June or July, just kind of saying like, here's when the Social Security trust fund would be potentially depleted. Here's like our long-term planning adjustment for cost of living adjustments. Just understand like, hey, if they did nothing and they sat on their hands, like 2033 or 2034 is saying you'll get about 79 cents or 80 cents on the dollar. If they make no changes, it's my opinion that changes would be made to kind of enhance Social Security. But at the end of the day, to kind of as insolvency. But you have to understand if you're fixing this problem here, it's actually going to impact something else. So maybe your children or their children basically get passed down the problem by raising taxes on FICA and all that fun stuff. So you kind of just have to keep in mind, like, are you going to be a proactive planner or a reactive planner? How do you build Social Security into your retirement plan? The first thing is not all money is taxed the same. I know we talk a lot about taxes on this show, but understanding that not everything you spend or receive in income in retirement is taxed the same. So I'm a proactive versus reactive. So for some of you in here, you're saying, Kyle keeps talking about Roth conversions and tax planning. For some of you, it might make sense to actually spend your tax later, your IRAs and your 401ks first for a year or two, and then delay your Social Security. And then those years you're doing some Roth conversions, or in those years you're spending your taxable brokerage accounts first, and then you'll flip the switch on Social Security. It really comes down to, like I said, lifestyle, spending amounts, and can you afford to do that? And then really at what point, is there a plan in place where you could potentially get more of your Social Security less taxed or tax-free? And that would basically mean you're showing more Roth IRA income in the future, so it doesn't make your Social Security more taxed. There are plenty of plans that we've created where someone that takes it at 66 or 67 versus waiting till 70 actually over their long life expectancy keeps more net based upon the tax strategies they did early in retirement. So again, for some people, this would be the best option, but not for all. Again, Social Security, it's more than just winging it, taking it, and then taking 4% of your portfolio, because it's not about just the break-even point. It's about how much you're going to keep after taxes at the end of the day. The more Social Security you can keep, the less shares you have to sell of your portfolio, which could allow you to potentially pay less in taxes and then spend more of your money since you're saving on taxes.
So when it comes to deciding on when to claim your Social Security benefit, how to claim it. It is sometimes a common and actually could be very costly mistake to take your benefits before your full retirement age.
Yeah, so an action item to kind of finalize the show, help you guys kind of take some next steps to kind of solve this potential question or concern you might have is one, understand like Social Security claiming is an income planning decision. It should not be made by itself without factoring in all these other decisions you have to make. So number one, do not ignore inflation. What type of inflation rate are you using on your essential expenses and non-essential expenses in retirement? And then what type of inflation rate are you applying to your Social Security benefit in retirement? We are big believers in planning for the worst and hoping for the best. So maybe just say, hey, maybe to potentially fix this Social Security problem we have, they might have to take away inflation adjustments. It might not be a bad idea to run Social Security if you took it at 65 or 66 and you're married and it said 66,000 a year. Just keep it flat for $66,000 a year for your lifetime, and basically test your portfolio and your retirement plan to see if it can keep up. Number two, without looking at your statement, understand Social Security is about how you take it, not when you take it. How are you going to take this with all these other resources you have, and how much income are you taking out on an annual basis will determine how much of your Social Security you'll keep or maximize. And then really customize your order of withdrawal strategies to make sure you're taking money from the right resources, that it doesn't impact your Social Security more year one and in the future. Because retirement planning, it's really easy to basically take that iceberg where you only see the top of the iceberg there and say, hey, here's what it looks like at retirement. But we're losing focus on like, okay, if I made these decisions like this, what does it look like in year 5 and 6 and 7 and 20? So those would be my action items, and hopefully you guys enjoyed today's show, and we'll see you again next week.